I just moved to Austin recently, and I don't know anybody here. So I went to a meetup earlier today and met a couple guys that aligned very well with my long-term vision for the kind of stuff that I want to do, the kind of impacts I want to make. And it's been a while since I don't know, connected with people like that. So um, it reminded me of the importance of community and have people around you that are working on the things you want to be working on, so it can keep you motivated and moving in the right direction. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about community and time maximization. Because one of the big things about aligning yourself around the right people is using your time, is the ability to use your time more appropriately. So let's get into it. Well, hello and welcome back to Riser, the show where we talk about how to live a more meaningful and productive life. My name's Russ, and today we're going to be talking about, again, the things that I just mentioned, and the importance of having people around you and to arrange your time around the priorities that are important to you. Now, of course, the first step in that is to know your priorities. What are the things that are important to you? So there's going to be other videos in this series and on this channel devoted more in depth to that topic. But to summarize it shortly, if you can reflect on the things that the kind of impacts that you want to make in the world, to get those, to come up with those, it's kind of like the things that make you most emotional. And what are the main emotions that drive you? Or do you care about justice, or do you care about joy and spreading joy? Do you care? What are those kind of like one-word concepts that drive your I don't know, the things you care about most, the things that really get you going? That's how you come up with like your long-term vision and impact. The midterm is the projects you work on, so the things that are going to have a tangible impact on other people's lives, the products and services that you might be able to provide. And then you have your day-to-day activities, which should align to execute that project, to build that thing. And so if those are your priorities, from those components, your long-term, your midterm, and your short-term, you can come up with the priorities that you should have in order to have a lasting impact. And so I wanted to share a little bit. Let's just hop into, this is a very simple way that I do it. Let's see. This is this is one of the tools that I've built for myself. It's very simple, and I'm building software to help us manage our own lives. So software that'll help with this process. But for now, this is just a simple Google slide, and this is how easy it can really be once you have defined your priorities. So I have my long-term vision, and then I have the projects that I want to work on. And from those projects, I know the kinds of work that I need to be doing. And so this is my week on a weekly basis, and it changes, and I can show that in a second. But actually, let me pull up the actual browser so you can see my cursor. Okay. No, you can't see my cursor. Okay, so this is my Google slide for how I keep track of my week and how I'm using my time towards my priorities. Yours will probably look different, especially if you have a job, because it'll take a lot of the blocks away. not necessarily. This could be a representation of your free time. So right now, all of my time is free on myself and used on my own priorities. Yours, each of these blocks might be smaller, but I arrange my days into 3 blocks of working time. Each block is between 2 to 3 hours, and so I have 21 blocks in a week. I take one out for whatever. And then now I have 20. And so I can arrange my time with percentages. So I look at, for my objectives, my midterm goals, I want to make this YouTube channel. I want to make software. And then there's some other things that I would like to work on as well. And so out of those, these are the things that I need to arrange my time. I have to code, I have to film, I have to research. I have some Sundays are for like coding experimentation stuff. So this is a quick, easy like reference, right? And then as the week moves, I can move things around. I can drag and drop these blocks, or I can recolor them appropriately, but I can see how my time is being used. So this is actually how last week ended up. I was a little behind on filming, so I filmed at the beginning of the week, and so that pushed coding more to the end of the week. But as I moved throughout the week, I could see that I needed to devote more time to one thing versus the other. So I'm hoping that each week, and I'm striving that each week reflects my overall priorities properly. Okay. So the first step is to set your priorities. And maybe make percentages for how your time should be used, and then the second thing is to arrange something like this so you can keep track of how you're using your time. Okay? That was just an example of how I do mine. Now, one of the biggest, I mentioned community at the beginning, and that's one of the most important things for maximization of your time. We've all heard the old thing where you are a reflection of like your closest 7 friends, something like that. And you're a reflection of the people you spend your time around, and that's definitely true. And so if you spend most of your days at work, working at a job where you're helping other people achieve their priorities, but they don't necessarily align with what kind of impact you would want to have in your life, and then you go home, or you go out to eat with your friends or something, or your family, and you argue about political issues or whatnot, and you spend your time there arguing about other things that other people care about and that you can't control. And then you go home and you escape from that into video games, into a fictional universe that has no actual effect on the world. Then effectively your time, like none of your time, is being used for yourself and the generation of ripples which will go out into the world and make a positive impact. And so you're wasting a lot of opportunity there that could be otherwise used for whatever your purposes are. So the next step is to arrange your life. And so the first step is to take your free time and split it up how I mentioned. Is if you can maximize your free time towards what you want, then you'll be more effective that way. But ultimately, a lot of our time isn't free. You know, you have to do, a lot of times you have to do, you're in a job and you have to do that job to make money because you don't have enough savings to live on, and even savings run out eventually, so you have to make money somewhere, and sometimes you have to sacrifice the short term by working for somebody else to make your own long term. And in those cases, you really want to try to maximize that time around what will eventually hit your goal. So, for instance, I was in the Air Force, and I was a manager, like a middle manager for these massive budget programs, and just like somewhere hidden in the vast bureaucracy that is the Department of Defense. And I never felt like I was, I did my job well, but I never felt like I was actually contributing much value to people in the world at the end of the day. And so that's when I started to learn software development. I I was experimenting around with some project ideas with a friend of mine, and they weren't going very well. But at each time, I learned something about myself and about that long-term vision that I wanted. And from there, I was able to determine that I needed more skills, and the skills ended up for me being software development, so that I could make the impacts I wanted. Um, Once I found that out, I was able to maximize my Air Force time, all that time that I felt was being wasted, towards my end of developing software that could help people. So I ended up finding I taught myself to code first, and then I found a program that taught me more and got me into a job where I was coding for and making an app to help people manage communication satellites. And that was pretty cool. The app was actually kind of boring, but the job was cool because I was able to devote all of that working time, that 8 hours a day that was normally spent like negotiating with people who hated each other to try to get them to do something that everybody was happy with. I stopped doing that and started using my time learning how and getting experience with coding so that I could apply it to my future. And so figuring out ways to maximize the time that you have available is incredibly important, because then I separated from the Air Force actually a year earlier than I planned. I asked to leave, but because of some paperwork stuff, I ended up saying, hey, you can leave a year early. And it wasn't a, hey, you can leave a year early. It was like, you're leaving a year early. Not that I did anything wrong. That was just the way the bureaucracy worked. And so I ended up getting shoved out into the real world a lot earlier than I expected. And so the fact that I was able to maximize that time while I was in there to get that experience was incredibly helpful, because now I have a skill that I can use to build the things I want. And so I would encourage you at whatever state you're at, wherever you are at, to try to figure out how many hours, try to squeeze as many hours in your day. Just got to squeeze as much juice out of them as you can. What are the things you want? What are the things you need to build to get what you want? And what are the things you need to learn to build those things? And how can you be devoting your time now to getting there in the future? It's a long process, and it doesn't happen overnight. But as soon as you start making those decisions, the opportunities start unveiling themselves to you. And I got like hundreds of emails every day while I was working at my job. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't read a lot of them. Most of them. A lot of them. The vast majority of them I did not read at all. But, I read the subject line. Well, I would have just overlooked that. There was an email that was advertising this program, that coding program. I normally wouldn't have looked at it at all. But the fact that I had thought about the plan from the top down and was able to recognize that learning software development at that point was the thing that I needed to do to help myself in the future, I saw that and immediately went for it. And so, I wasn't a software developer at that point, so that wasn't an immediate thought of mine to read my emails to look for that. But there it was. What else do we want to hit? So there's different levels of your goals, right? You've got your long-term goals and your mid-term goals and your short-term goals. But you can find people that are alike in all the different areas, and you should try to do that. So there's nothing wrong, there's probably nothing wrong with your friends and your family in terms of they are your friends and your family, so they've probably taken care of you and been decent friends. But in terms of helping you actually reach the places you need to reach, that you want to reach, They may not be in those industries, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you can find people that align with your goals at every level, then that's going to help you at every level. So if you when I joined that program for coding, I was then surrounded by developers that were teaching to code, and then developers that were developing the app with me for the communication satellites, and that constant being surrounded by those people had just advanced my learning way faster, because I had learned to code before that, but it wasn't until I actually joined that program, was able to do it all the time surrounded by other people, that I was able to stay motivated by the other people doing the same stuff and be able to learn from them along the way. At the same time, those people didn't have any of my goals, so I still felt kind of ostracized in that they didn't care about the things that I cared about besides coding. They didn't want to make an impact on people's productivity. So finding people that are really focused on that are important to me. That's why I was so happy when I went to that meetup earlier today. So I finally found some people that were oriented in that direction and were trying to achieve some of the same goals. And so I'm excited to talk with them and whether or not anything comes out of it. If you can find people that align with your higher level goals, to keep yourself sane that those are issues that actually need to be addressed in society, and if you can find people that align with your midterm goals that will help you actually execute, will teach you the skills and the things that are important to get what you want, to actually do the things that are required to get what you want, those are even more important. And then the last part is the day-to-day stuff. And that's a little harder because you don't have people there all the time. And so that's really where the arrangement of your life comes in. Can you put your life in such a state where every hour of every day you're with people doing something that gets you closer to your goals? If you're just at monthly meetups to help, that's all right, but you need to be surrounded every day. You need to be immersed in the culture that is the change that you want to see. The alternative is that you can be, stuck in the same kind of patterns. Just going back and forth between your job and the politics arguing and the video games. And I love video games, by the way, no bashing there, but to never feel like you have control over the end result, to be working for the other people and to be a pawn, kind of, and always be angry at other people for not doing what you think is important. That's really what it all comes down to, is what do you think is important, and how are you going to get it? I think that's all I had for today. Here's one more thing, is if you get into something and once you choose and you really start diving into the process of working at it, it's going to be hard. I don't care what it is, it's going to be hard, and you might be going through that right now, and there's going to be a lot of things that are hard about it, and you're not going to know exactly if the things that you're working on and the things that are hard for you are the right things that are supposed to be hard, because everything's hard, right? But if you're struggling with something, is this something that everybody struggles with? Is this something that I should be struggling with? Or is this something where there's an easy answer and I'm just not looking at it? Or is it not important and I can just ignore it and I should be focusing on these other things over here? These are questions that you're bound to hit if you start doing something new. And the only thing that solves that is by having people around you to guide you when you hit those difficulties, to ask the question, hey, this is really hard. Is there a better way to do this, or am I just going to have to do it? And a lot of times the answer is you're just going to have to do it. But that answer is just as important as somebody who tells you that what you're doing is not important, or somebody that tells you how to fix your problem is just as useful as somebody who tells you that you have to fix your own problem, because nobody knows how to fix it. And both are just as useful because it tells you that you're on the right path, or that you have to figure out your path on your own, that you're not an idiot, in other words. As I build this YouTube channel for the first time, I have a lot of questions. And so I also had a call with my mentor earlier today, and that was really insightful because there's a lot of things that I've been struggling with. Editing, do I do things live? Do I spend a lot of time messing with the outline and stuff before? How much time is right to spend on everything? Because a lot of time has been spent on this. And so it alleviates some frustration when you hit difficult times and you know that these are things that everybody struggles with and that you're not being an idiot. So I hope that's helpful. And I hope that if you don't know what you want in the world, that you can sit down and reflect on what are the important impacts and that you want to make. What are the emotions that you want to spread or inhibit for other people? What are the products and services that you would need to make to have that impact? And how can you maximize your time and your community around you to all be focused in that direction? And if you can do that, then that's all you need. So if you're ready,